Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool are taking on Watford on Monday night at Vicarage Road in a game that could go a huge way in confirming their place in the top four of the Premier League. And the big news going into this game is whether or not Adam Lallana is going to be fit for this game. And at the moment, it looks fairly 50-50. I mean, we've seen pictures of him in training. He's talked a lot on social media about how he's targeted this game against Watford for his comeback from injury. But the fact that in these pictures, he always looks like he's been training alone rather than with the first team, which isn't uncommon given how long he's been laid off with injury, sort of suggests that he might not be quite ready to return to the first team fold. Certainly not from the starting 11 if things go on the way they seem to be going at the moment. However, if you ask me, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because there were two problems that Liverpool had against Crystal Palace. One of them, which I highlighted in the post-match video, was that the midfield was crying out for Adam Lallana. They needed someone who was able to link up the midfield and the attack and create that bit more flow in the team that would allow them to be a bit more creative and have an extra dimension to their attacking play. And the other massive problem that they had, which a lot of people cited after the match, was the lack of quality on the bench, because when Liverpool were in a similar situation against Stoke a few weeks earlier, they were able to bring on Coutinho and Firmino, who are two of their star players who completely changed the game and won the game in the end and got Liverpool the 3 points. And so if they're in a similar situation at Vicarage Road, to have a player like Adam Lallana on the bench who they can bring on and shake things up and change the game in our favour would be a massive bonus for Liverpool. So provided he's fit in some capacity for this game, which, given that he said he's targeting this game and he has been in training for quite a while, whether or not that's with the team or on his own, suggests that he should play some role in this game. So hopefully that should give Liverpool a bit of a boost going into this match. So I think there's no hiding the fact that this is a massive game for Liverpool in the fight for the top four. And I will talk a little bit later about Man City and Man United's games, because it's at that stage of the season now where their results are pretty much as important as ours. But I think this is really a perfect time for Liverpool to really lay down a marker in the race for the top four and say that that result against Crystal Palace was only a blip and that it's the last blip we're going to have this season. Because if we don't recover from that now, there's not really any time left at the end of the season to pick ourselves back up off the floor. We can't have a situation similar to January where we got into this massive slump and we just couldn't get out of it. It took us about 2 months in the end to get out of that slump, because we're at the stage now where we've got 4 games left and we have to respond to that defeat as quickly as we possibly can, sort of like we did earlier on in the season with the defeat against Burnley, where we instantly bounced back and put in good performances and started our climb up the table towards when we thought we might actually start a title charge. So Liverpool need to turn things round in this game. And so here are my 3 reasons why I think they will and why I think they will beat Watford. So first of all, it's been mentioned a little bit before this match that there's a suggestion that Watford might be on the beach in a sense for this game, in that their season's pretty much wrapped up. They're about the middle of the table. I think they're 10th at this stage. They've got 40 points, so they're pretty much safe from relegation. And they also know that they're probably going to have their manager leave or be sacked at the end of the season. So there isn't really much motivation to do anything. And provided they don't suddenly get a big rush and decide that they want to come out and beat Liverpool Football Club and get a big result, which could theoretically happen, especially if Liverpool don't show up and allow them a chance to win the game. Hopefully they'll just lack the little bit of desire that Liverpool will, we imagine, have, given that they are right in the fight for the top 4, and 3 points for them would be so much more meaningful than it would for Watford. So I think that simply just having that extra edge, particularly at the end of the season when a lot of players will be becoming a little bit more fatigued, they'll be a bit more tired, they might be thinking about just getting through to the end of the season without any painful injuries or long-term injuries and just getting through to the summer. So I think that could have an effect on this game, and hopefully it will lead to Liverpool putting in a better performance than Watford will and getting us the 3 points. And secondly, the fact that this is away from home, I think could benefit Liverpool a little bit, because I think the problem against Crystal Palace was we had that game plan against West Brom that worked, of grinding out a result and defending well and having a few more players behind the ball and sitting off the opposition a bit more. But when we're at home, we can't really do that because there's an expectation for us to attack, and teams will sit off us a lot more when they're playing us at Anfield. So hopefully the fact that it's at Vicarage Road will mean that Liverpool don't feel as pressured to push out from the back and try and move higher up the pitch than they probably should go. It'll invite Watford out a little bit more, even though, like I said earlier, they might be on the beach a little bit much, but they should come out a little bit more because they'll have their fans still egging them on to try and get a goal and try and get some sort of result or pride to take away from the game. So hopefully it'll make things open up a little bit more and allow Liverpool to play that game that they played against West Brom, that ultimately, while it was pretty ugly and it wasn't very entertaining or enjoyable to watch, did get them a vital 3 points that has really helped them in the race for the top 4. And finally, I think the fact that Liverpool are playing after their other top 4 rivals in this game should hopefully give them a little bit of extra motivation, because if Man United and Man City do win their games, then Liverpool could start this game in 5th and will need a win to get back into the top 4. And so it will be a real test of our character to see whether we can come out of that situation with the right attitude, with a winning attitude, and go out and get those 3 points and show that we have the courage to stick it in the fight for the top 4. Obviously, it could go the other way and that pressure could get to Liverpool and lead to them to make silly mistakes like they did against Palace and give away goals and lose the game. But I think the fight that we've shown earlier on in this season, if you discount the result against Palace and think more about the games like the second half against Stoke and obviously that aforementioned game against West Brom, Liverpool do look like the kind of team that are up for this fight for the top 4, especially certain players like, say, Roberto Firmino or Emre Can, who really came into their own in matches like that towards the end of this season. So hopefully the fact that they've got that little bit of extra motivation to try and get back into the top 4 and keep going in the fight to get Champions League football should give them a little bit of extra motivation, a bit more of a push to try and win this game. So I said earlier how I was going to talk about the games that the other 2 teams in the fight for the top 4 are playing. So starting off with Manchester City, they've got Middlesbrough away, and in all honesty, I can't really see past a Man City win in that game, because while Middlesbrough do have a pretty good defence, I'd say they've got the defence of, say, a 12th or 11th place team, really, around about mid-table. They're really clueless in attack. I mean, when you watch them play and when they go forward, they just don't really have any ideas or anything to offer. They don't seem to have a style of how to create chances and get goals. So even though I think obviously City have played extra time in the FA Cup on Sunday, they played on Thursday night against Man United, so they will have tired legs. So I think this game will be a bit closer than people are maybe expecting it to be. I can still see nothing other than a 3 points for them in this match. As for Manchester United, they've got Swansea at home, which is a bit of an interesting one, because while on paper that looks like a fairly comfortable win for Manchester United, playing lower down teams at home has been their weakness in the past. So while that could lead to maybe people expecting a draw from that game, I think the fact that Swansea are in a relegation fight and they do need 3 points from this game, even though, you know, it's unlikely they're going to Old Trafford, they can't really settle for a draw in this game. So I expect them to come out a little bit more. And with Man U having fast players like Rashford and Martial now in the team with the absence of Ibrahimovic, they'll have a lot of space round the back, I expect, to score goals. So I'm a little bit 50-50. I think if Liverpool get lucky and if Swansea get lucky, then they could be a draw at Old Trafford. But in all likelihood, I think it's probably going to be a win for Manchester United. So if both of those results play out as I expect them to, then we will need this 3 points massively against Watford if we want to stay in the fight for the top 4. So that's all for today's video. If you want to find out how I think Liverpool will line up and whether Adam Lallana will make the starting 11 or the bench against Watford, then check out the FIFA 17 predictor. Link to that is over here. Hopefully, if I can remember how to put it in, you can click that and watch the FIFA 17 predictor when it comes out, which will be shortly after this video. If it's not out yet, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss it. If you enjoyed the video, then give it a like as well. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with the FIFA 17 predictor before long, and bye for now.